The crypto markets are up, with Doge leading the charge, up over 50%. And joining me to discuss BTC price and other Bitcoin news is our Week in Review panel. CoinDesk Managing Editor of Technology, Christy Harkin in Toronto, Managing Editor of Market Spread Count in Austin, and Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Happy Friday, y'all.
It's good to be here. You too, Christine. I gotta know, who is Elon talking to? Who's Elon talking to? Everybody knows Doge doesn't have any developers. Right? That's right.
That's right. And Jackson Palmer tweeted out that he's
the Doge army after you there.
A self-absorbed grifter. Galen, so any significance out of this Doge Bitcoin correlation after all the news that we're seeing this week?
Absolutely none, Christine. Look, I think to the extent that assets other than Bitcoin are uncorrelated with Bitcoin, it's a signal that maybe the crypto, if you start to see more assets being uncorrelated with Bitcoin, it's a signal that diversification in the cryptocurrency market. Historically, things tend to move together. Correlation with Bitcoin has been quite strong for most assets across the board. So, I wouldn't necessarily hold up Doge as an example, but the more you see altcoins sort of moving away from Bitcoin, the more that's a sign of people really diversifying, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And what did you get out of the Coinbase earnings announced after the closing bell?
Oh, good stuff. Everything that they announced in terms of the top line was, and the bottom line was in line with what they had announced in their sort of pre-earnings about a month ago. But where we were able to get a little more detail is in the breakdown of their revenues. So their institutional activity basically level. Everything's up. Q1 was huge, as we know, for Coinbase. But institutional activity as a percentage of trading, of transaction revenue and transactions, still about around 64% in that range. And also not a lot of growth, relatively speaking, from the non-transactional portion of their revenue, custody, et cetera, still kind of, at the same percentage levels of where it has been. About custody, about 1.5% of their revenue comes from that. And that has not changed in the first quarter. So we're not seeing real growth in their custody, staking, and those aspects of their business, but certainly big growth across the board in everything that they do.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of users getting into Coinbase as a gateway into the crypto markets. But I feel like we can't talk about Bitcoin price, Brad, unless we mention the whole Tesla and Bitcoin connection, with Elon Musk tweeting that Tesla is ending payments in Bitcoin for cars because of environmental impact concerns. Has that dip that ensued recovered?
Well, yeah, to your point, this was a pretty big event in this year's Bitcoin market so far, going back to February when Elon Musk tweeted that Tesla was going to start accepting Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin for the balance sheet. And the price went up so much on that one day that it became a meme in itself. The Elon's candle, based on the pattern in the price chart. We had in a couple stories that there was one opportunistic vendor that even made a t-shirt with Elon's candle. So he became kind of this hero for the Bitcoin market. And then this week it turns around and it's almost, like a stab in the back for some of these Bitcoiners who saw Elon Musk as their champion. But to answer your question, Bitcoin fell to as low as 45,000, and at the start of last week it was 57,000. And yes, it did actually find a floor. It found buyers at that level, and we're now back up around 50,000. So that in itself is kind of interesting if you think about what is the value of having somebody like Elon Musk on your side? If you think about it like that. And it's worth about $7,000 maybe of Bitcoin's price, So, interestingly, it's still holding up pretty well, actually, all things considered.
Yeah. I don't think Bitcoin Do you?
Right.
I don't think Sorry.
Some people are saying they just need to rip the Band-Aid off of Elon and, be rid of him and let Bitcoin do its thing. But also, Brad, we're seeing the options market potentially influencing the price, as well as this grayscale discount. What can you tell us about that?
Well, those are two stories that we had out today. One was by our reporter Omkar Godbole in Mumbai, and his story was basically just saying that people construct all these very complex trades involving options, and depending on what the options are doing or what the underlying price of Bitcoin is doing, they might have to do some offsetting trades. And in this case, the idea was because of what was happening in the options market, people were selling Bitcoin, and that helped to exaggerate some of the move down. And the big picture there is that the Bitcoin options market is growing to the point where you are starting to see it make way. It has this secondary effect on the Bitcoin spot market. And then the other story was looking at this Grayscale premium, which has turned into a discount. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust being the biggest stock traded vehicle for Bitcoin, and it's trading at a discount. And some analysts are saying that it might be actually, if you buy it at this discount and then later, Grayscale converts it into an ETF, the price will trade up. And so you'll get not only the performance of Bitcoin, but also you'll capture that discount as profit.
And just a note to viewers, Grayscale is a sister company to CoinDesk. Turning to the tech side, Christy, the Bitcoin mining difficulty and hash rates, they're hitting all-time highs, and that means a lot of miners are competing to confirm transactions and earn rewards on the Bitcoin network. And I understand CoinDesk has a mining review out. What can you tell us?
Well, mining's often been criticized for being centralized in China, but there has lately been a trend toward more mining investment in North America. Just this week, we saw, for example, Core Scientific doubling its size and adding 500 petahashes of machine power. These guys are in Georgia. They also are able to now repair miners. They have sort of like a license to their certified repair site for different miners. So instead of having to ship your equipment back to China to get serviced, you can get it shipped to a place in North America to get it serviced. Bitfarms also now can do that. So we're getting a lot of really good development on the mining front in North America. And notably, a lot of these mining places in North America are using renewables, and they are shifting toward greener ways of mining Bitcoin. And just this week, two more companies in North America joined the Accord, the Crypto Climate Accord, that is trying to get all of the carbon emissions down by 2040, I believe it is. So there's some really good progress happening in North America. And all of this relates to the fact that we have an all-time high, because we're getting more miners on board. And why is that happening? Well, as the price of Bitcoin increases, you get more miners, even weaker ones, able to mine profitably. And when the price of Bitcoin decreases, weaker miners exit the market because they're no longer viable. And that's not happening right now. So as our analyst at CoinDesk, George Kaludis, explains in a recent CoinDesk research report, watching these hash rate metrics can give Bitcoin investors some really good insights into buy and sell opportunities. And if you want to check out that full report, it can be downloaded for free from CoinDesk's Research Hub at coindesk.com/research. But what I want to point out is that looking at a network's hash rate is a really good way to gauge its security level. Now, sometimes there are external forces that knock miners offline, like the energy shortage that resulted from a cluster of coal mining incidents in China, which we talked about a few weeks ago, or there's a supply chain or a chip disruption that can keep new miners from joining the network, which we've also seen happen over the past year. But generally speaking, you can get a good sense of how secure a proof of work blockchain like Bitcoin is by taking a look at its hash rate. And typically, you'd expect to see this hash rate go up as the price goes up because it's more profitable for miners to participate, which is a good thing. Yes, it uses more energy, but this is, in a way, a good thing because the more valuable your investment is, the more secure you want your safe that you're keeping it in to be. So in a chart from the Bitcoin miner metrics research report I was talking about, you can see that, for example, Bitcoin's way up there, and Litecoin is, well, you got then Bitcoin Cash in the middle, and Litecoin is way down at the bottom. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because we've been talking a lot about Dogecoin lately. And what some people might not realize is that Dogecoin is merge mined with Bitcoin, meaning that miners can mine both Litecoin and Dogecoin at the same time through a process called auxiliary proof of work. Litecoin's the parent blockchain, Dogecoin's the auxiliary blockchain. And there's not a lot of hash power there. You can see a lot of security happening there. And there's even, like, the jury is even out as to whether merge mining is actually a total security benefit to the auxiliary chain. There are a few issues that some developers worry about, but it's better than not having the shared hash power. At any rate, the point here is that Bitcoin is head and shoulders above other proof of work blockchains in terms of network security. And there's a lot of money in Bitcoin, so that's really important. And the blockchain itself is battle tested and has a host of developers working on it and contributing to its code. And that's because it has a massive network of miners providing the hash rate. So there you go.
Wow, super insightful. It ties it all together. It ties together the whole environmental impact and the security, as well as, puts the case of why Doge is so good.
It comes down also to, what do we want? Our reporter Ben Powers wrote a great article called "Everything We Want Costs Energy," including Bitcoin. And if we want Bitcoin to be secure, like anything else that we have, the clothes on your back, everything requires energy to produce. And in this case, secure.